In a crowded tavern, a man asks if anyone hasn't heard of the absolutely unbeatable SSS rank dungeon. His buddy nods, saying everybody's heard the stories. Legend has it that the world's strongest mages, swordsmen, and even whole armies of assassins have all failed to clear it. And at the very top, the most powerful being of the era reigns as the dungeon boss. Right now, a high-level heroes party is standing at the massive gates of Prometheus's Twilight Tower, facing what looks like an unwinnable game. Hero Knight slams his fist against the entrance in frustration. They can't even get inside. A red system alert blocks their path, stating that the required level to enter is a cool 999. The party is stunned by the sheer difficulty, and Hero Knight calls for a fallback before they get themselves killed. Deep inside the tower, the boss Tensisha hums to himself, completely unbothered by the invaders. Even if someone managed to break in, they'd still have to fight through his entire army of loyal monsters. His subordinates are fiercely dedicated, vowing that no one will ever reach their leader. Tensisha just smiles and thanks them for their hard work. In this dungeon, the boss isn't a monster. He's the protector of everyone who lives there. Meanwhile, back in the 21st century, Imamura Hitoya is walking home thinking society is just a trash game with zero balance. To him, life is just a series of rigid ranks where the high-ranking look down on everyone else. As he crosses the street, he feels like the difficulty of his life has just spiked to insane mode. He's tried to just accept his place, but he knows he'll never be happy if things stay like this. Hitoya is just plain exhausted with the world. He doesn't even see the truck-kun coming until the headlights are right in his face. Everything goes dark, and when he finally wakes up, he finds himself staring at a skeletal hand. He realizes the hand is his own and starts screaming in pure panic. It's not just the hand, his entire body has been stripped down to white bone. He clutches his head as a system window appears, labeling him an undead level 5. He's stuck in a game-like world, and he's not even human anymore. Memories of the truck-kun crash flash through his mind, confirming that he really did die. Another notification pops up. He's now in an F-rank dungeon called the Forest Mausoleum. Hitoya hears something in the bushes and freezes, thinking he's about to be attacked. But it's just a tiny, fluffy level 1 wolf pup that lets out a friendly little bark. He stares at the creature, surprised to see another living thing in this place. He worries it might try to eat him, but it just looks at him with big, curious eyes. The pup jumps right into his lap, and for a second, Hitoya actually relaxes. He sits there in the quiet forest, thinking this new life might actually be better than his old one. Compared to the misery he came from, this is almost peaceful. Suddenly, a system alert flashes, warning him that a challenger has appeared. The wolf pup starts trembling, sensing the danger approaching them. A crossbow clicks into place as hunters move into position nearby. A bolt whistles through the air and pins Hitoya's skull to the ground. Another bolt narrowly misses the pup, sending it scurrying in terror as more shots fly. Hitoya collapses as he sees the pup get hit, the reality of being a weak monster sinking in. Challenger Archer walks up, looking for easy materials to harvest from their bodies. A shadowy figure looms over the scene, ready to finish the farm. The terrified pup whines on top of Hitoya's head as the hunters close in. Hitoya is still trying to wrap his head around the fact that he's actually awake and conscious in this skeletal body. He pets the little wolf, realizing he really did die and turn into some low-level monster in a weird dream world. Suddenly, a flood of horrific memories hits him, images of being hunted down and having his bones harvested for coin. He sees a vision of the little wolf pup lying dead with an arrow through its back, treated like nothing more than a piece of leather. The Challenger Archer looms over him in these flashes, holding a blood-stained skull with a sadistic grin. A hand reaches out, casually mentioning how there's actually a decent market for selling off undead ribs. A jagged knife is drawn, ready to strip the materials from whatever's left of his body. Back in reality, Hitoya is shaking with terror as his core starts to glow with an intense blue light. A red system window flashes in front of him, warning that another dungeon challenger has been detected. He can't believe more humans are already here to farm him when he's barely been alive for 5 minutes. The little wolf pup starts trembling, whimpering as it senses the killers closing in. Hitoya isn't about to abandon his only friend, so he grabs the pup and prepares to make a run for it. He ducks behind a massive tree, holding his breath as the footsteps of the hunters get louder. Two men, the Challenger Archer and the Challenger Warrior, walk right past his hiding spot while laughing about their easy job. Hitoya watches them from the shadows, realizing that in their eyes, he's just a walking pile of experience points. They joke about how the dungeon is packed with monsters that can be turned into stamina-boosting ingredients. The Archer mentions beating up weak mobs to blow off steam before heading to the red light district for the night. The muscular warrior agrees, saying he's not quitting these daily hunts when the rewards are this easy to get. Hitoya finally understands the cruel reality of his situation. He's just a trash mob in an F-rank dungeon. He's read enough manga to know the setup, but he was hoping for a cheat hero reincarnation, not this. In this world, he's treated as less than a living being, just materials, that humans can farm whenever they want. It's a literal hell where pain and death just keep repeating in a never-ending cycle. He looks down at the pup, realizing this poor creature has had to go through this horrific loop over and over again. Suddenly, the challenger warrior spots them and lunges with his sword, a dark light in his eyes. Hitoya screams in terror as the blade comes down, desperate to escape a fate he didn't even choose. The horror of the situation is truly starting to sink in as he's caught in the open. Before he can move, pink energy arrows whistle through the air and pin his skeletal frame to the ground. He and the pup are trapped, pinned like insects while the hunters walk up to finish the job. Hitoya looks up in absolute despair, his bones rattling as he realizes how helpless he really is. The two challengers stand over them, mocking the F-rank dungeon for being so stupid easy to clear. The archer steps forward, his boot crushing the ground right next to the fallen skeleton. He casually decides they should start by butchering the wolf first, as if its life is completely worthless. As the hunter reaches for the pup, Hitoya's single blue eye flares with a blinding, righteous anger. A massive wave of blue energy explodes from his core as he vows that he won't let these humans touch the pup. Surrounded by a storm of mana, Hitoya resolves to stop being a victim and become a dungeon that no one can ever clear. Hitoya is a broken skeleton, on the verge of death. Suddenly, a blue system message appears. Secret mission triggered, dungeon boss manifested. Flashback to his previous life. Hitoya was a student who felt like a nobody, believing some things in reality just couldn't be changed. Back in the dungeon, he refuses to give up. He wants to change himself, and his skeletal core begins to pulsate with intense blue light. A system warning flashes. Monster evolution. Hitoya's body is reshaped by surging power. The transformation completes, leaving Hitoya in a humanoid form with glowing blue eyes. He has officially evolved. Bodo stares in disbelief, shocked to see an undead monster suddenly turn human. The unnamed archer bandit sneers, reminding everyone they're in an F-rank dungeon. He mocks the boss, saying even an evolved trash mob is still just trash. The two bandits prepare to attack, planning to fill him with arrows before butchering the wolf pup. Hitoya's eyes glow with resolve. He won't let them touch his companions. He lunges forward with incredible speed, catching the intruders off guard. The evolved monster drops down on them from above, his movements animalistic and swift. He strikes, sending the warrior reeling back with a single blow. Hitoya lands gracefully, his back to the stunned bandit. Bodo is rattled, gritting his teeth as he realizes the monster's strength has completely changed. The humanoid boss stands tall, a segmented bone tail curling behind him. The bandit is sweating, his eyes wide with fear. He can't believe his steel sword was just parried by a tail. The archer calls Hitoya a worthless piece of garbage, trying to hide his own panic. He draws his bow and takes aim, desperate to end this. He fires a volley of arrows, screaming at the creature to just shut up and die. But the arrows shatter upon impact with Hitoya's glowing chest core, not a single scratch. Hitoya's expression is cold. He commands them to leave and never come back. The archer is paralyzed with terror, realizing they are completely outmatched. Hitoya stands before the massive stone gate. The bandits realize they can't win and decide to make a run for it. Bodo sprints toward the exit, shouting that they have to escape. His partner follows close behind, but the heavy dungeon doors begin to slam shut. The archer reaches out in desperation, begging for the gate to wait. The warrior doesn't look back, abandoning his comrade to save his own skin. The massive stone doors crush the man as they seal shut, his screams cut short. Alone in the quiet forest, Hitoya is breathless, surprised he managed to drive them off. He looks down at the spot where the wolf pup fell. He wonders if the little creature will even come back this time. Suddenly, golden light begins to swirl around the pup's remains. Hitoya's eyes widen as the light grows brighter. A familiar silhouette starts to take shape from the glowing energy rising from the ground. A tiny, fluffy white creature appears, yipping happily as it respawns. The young man is overcome with relief. He's just glad his friend is back. The little creature nuzzles him, and he can't help but smile. He finally takes a look at himself, shocked by the bone tail and the fact that he now has actual skin on his face. A status screen flickers into existence before him. It confirms his new identity, Dungeon Boss, Tensisha. He's no longer just a skeleton. Meanwhile, in the Ryuseizoku hideout in the East Capital, Bodo reports the incident. The gang's leadership listens intently as he describes the manifest boss. The survivor is frantic, insisting that they'll need a dragon if they want any hope of clearing that dungeon. Gulden, a high-ranking bandit, laughs at the report. He finds it embarrassing that his men were humiliated in an F-rank dungeon. He lounges on his throne, surrounded by attendants, completely unimpressed by the news of a manifest boss. Bodo trembles before him, stuttering as he tries to explain the terrifying power he witnessed. Above them, a massive dragon looms, its jaws wide as a cold voice dismisses the failure as useless. From the shadows, the big boss Albara watches with glowing eyes, tired of hearing about this low-level dungeon. Gulden smirks, acknowledging the order with a lazy nod. Albara commands them to wipe out every last creature in that dungeon, deciding it's time to test their newest asset, the Twin Heads baby dragon. To him, even a newly spawned boss is nothing more than garbage to be cleared away. With the mission set, Gildan prepares to move out, while Albara stands framed by the light. He looks back at the caged dragon, telling the beast to make itself useful as his primary gear. Someone steps through the door, ready to follow the command. The hideout is filled with gruesome trophies like jars of monster eyes, a grim reminder that in their world, useless tools are simply discarded. The order is final: prove your worth on this hunt, or suffer the consequences. Back in the dungeon, Hitoya explores his new home with the small white fox on his shoulder. He perches on a massive branch, gazing at ancient ruins that smell of fresh forest. From up here, the place looks like a massive soccer stadium filled with lush nature. He wonders what kind of creatures are hidden in the shadows of this quiet forest. A rustling sound behind him makes his heart skip a beat. He spins around, tense and ready for a fight. But it's not a threat. A small, fluffy creature pops out to greet him. Hitoya is baffled to see a second one, wondering where they all came from. Suddenly, a whole pack of level 1 wolves emerges from the greenery. He's stunned. There are dozens of them, and they don't seem aggressive at all. As they crowd around him, he realizes these wolves are more like energetic puppies. He notices something else glowing in the distance. A cluster of luminous mushrooms lights up the forest floor. He approaches the plants, amazed by their soft, mystical glow. He never expected to find something so beautiful in a dungeon like this. A system tag hovering over them identifies the fungi as level 1. He crouches down to inspect them, questioning if they're actually just ordinary mushrooms. One of the pups sniffs at the glowing caps, wagging its tail happily. It clicks for him. The wolves here are only as strong as the level 1 vegetation they lit around. He starts walking again, followed by a loyal pack of 30 tiny wolves. This place isn't a death trap, it's a sanctuary for the weak. He reaches a set of massive stone doors, where a system window notes an entry requirement of level 1. He looks back at his new companions, feeling a strange bond forming. The white pup stares back with big, trusting eyes. Suddenly, the whole pack pounces on him, knocking him down in a flurry of fur and yips. The little one nuzzles into his shoulder, showing its affection. Hitoya sits there in the middle of the pile, realizing how warm and alive they feel. Looking at the innocent creatures, a new resolve takes root in his heart. He makes a silent vow he's going to protect them. Hitoya glances back at the entrance, sensing that staying near the gate is an invitation for trouble. With the pups huddled around him, he decides it's time to retreat into the safety of the trees. "We're going deeper in," he tells the small creatures as they look up at him with innocent curiosity. He knows that if any dungeon challengers arrive, these defenseless wolves will be easy targets for snipers. Suddenly, a crimson system alert blares in his vision. Dungeon challenger detected. Hitoya's eyes go wide with panic. The timing couldn't be worse for his new friends. He spins around to face the massive stone gate, his heart sinking as he hears the sound of it opening. A booming voice commands the intruders to strike, sending a chill down Hitoya's spine. He braces himself, seeing a dark shadow descending rapidly from above. Two powerful twin dragons, both level 51, dive toward him with predatory intent. The beasts lock their glowing eyes on him, their faces twisted into menacing snarls. Gul'dan, a level 35 crossbow user from the Dragon Raiders, steps into view with a cruel grin, excited to find the rumored boss. Hitoya grits his teeth, realizing he's not just facing monsters but ruthless human bandits. "Wolves, run back into the forest," he shouts, hoping they can get away while he distracts the attackers. He leaps into action, throwing a powerful kick to fend off the dragon's initial dive. But his heart sinks when he sees the pups. They're paralyzed with fear, unable to move a muscle. Doubts start to creep in. Can he really keep all of these helpless creatures safe on his own? A haunting image flashes through his mind of a pup struck down by an arrow, blood pooling on the ground. He senses the shadow of the archer bandit looming, a silent hunter waiting for the perfect shot. A sharp yelp of pain from one of the pups snaps him back to the present. But then, the small white pup he first met stands its ground, letting out a defiant cry. Encouraged by its bravery, the rest of the pack starts to rally behind their tiny leader. Hitoya watches in awe as the pup stares down the massive dragons without flinching. The little creature is trembling, yet its eyes are filled with a fierce determination to survive. Gul'dan cackles, finding the sight of his prey, trying to resist absolutely entertaining. Hitoya stands his ground, glowing with energy as he vows to protect the wolves at all costs. Gul'dan mocks him, calling him a feisty little prey who doesn't know his place. He orders his dragons to unleash their true power and dispose of anyone who isn't useful. One of the dragons opens its maw, a cold blue light gathering deep within its throat. Hitoya recognizes the surge of energy. This is more than just a physical attack, it's a skill. The system confirms it as the dragon's skill is activated, unleashing a torrent of sapphire flames. Hitoya dives out of the way just as the freezing blast strikes the earth with an icy crash. He stares in disbelief at the ground, which has been turned into a jagged landscape of solid ice. That's not normal fire, he mutters, realizing how dangerous these skills truly are. There's no time to rest as the second dragon swoops in, its mouth glowing with a scorching red light. Another skill is triggered, and a wave of intense crimson heat erupts toward him. Hitoya barely escapes the blast, the searing wind whipping past him as the world turns to fire. He looks back to see the ground where he just stood bubbling and melting into slag. The two dragons circle above, one wielding flames that freeze, the other flames that melt everything they touch. Hitoya stands between the two elemental disasters, trying to formulate a plan to save his pack. It hits him. These skills are just like the special abilities he's seen in countless video games. He identifies their nature. One dragon has a freezing flame skill, while its twin possesses a melting heat flame. He stares at the silhouette of Gyoldon, wondering if the bandit also possesses a hidden skill. Imamura Hitoya realizes that if everyone else has special abilities, he might have gained one too. Just then, a blue system alert confirms his suspicions. Skill available. Hitoya sees a notification pop up. It's a skill activation prompt. He's still on the move, dodging attacks while trying to process what's happening. The screen reveals his passive, Rebirth. It allows him to permanently take skills from any challenger who fails to beat his dungeon. He realizes just how broken this system is. The challenger archer fires another volley of energy arrows. They vanish into thin air, catching Hitoya completely off guard. He barely dodges as the ground around him gets torn apart. The archer just laughs, calling him lively prey. Hitoya tries to track the trajectory of the invisible projectiles. He does a backflip to avoid a direct hit, but the pressure is building. He figures out the gimmick. The arrows go invisible the moment they're fired. He needs to close the distance and take out the sniper before he gets tagged. The archer keeps mocking him, confident that he can't be touched. A sudden scream cuts through the air. One of the archer's own arrows is buried in the neck of the dragon he was riding. Instead of being worried, he just calls the beast a useless idiot. Hitoya can't believe what he's hearing. To the archer, monsters aren't allies, they're just disposable objects. He says they're easy to replace once they break. He treats the dragon like a broken tool that belongs in the trash. Hitoya is silent, the rage starting to boil over. He thinks back to the way humans treat everything like a resource. He remembers the little wolf pups that actually trusted him. The dragon's eyes are full of pain, realizing its master doesn't care if it lives or dies. Hitoya has seen enough. He surges forward with a burst of energy. He shouts that he doesn't see monsters as tools. He delivers a crushing blow right to the archer's face. The impact shatters the archer's crossbow and breaks the dragon's collar in one go. He stands over the guy, cold and ready to finish this. The archer scrambles back, terrified now that he's defenseless. The dragon heads loom over him, and they're glowing with energy. He tries to beg, but it's far too late for that. A massive pillar of freezing energy erupts, consuming the archer completely. He screams as the ice starts creeping up his face. In an instant, he's turned into a frozen statue and shattered. The system confirms the challenger failed to clear the dungeon. Another notification pops up. The rebirth skill is ready. He's met the conditions to steal a new ability. Hitoya doesn't hesitate. Isle activates the skill. Glowing energy swirls around his core as the process begins. He successfully acquires Stealth Shot, Ghost Strike, turning his enemy's best weapon into his own. Hitoya approaches the twin dragon. They look at him with a mix of confusion and suspicion. They growl, still tense and ready for another fight after everything they've been through. Hitoya stops and tells them to wait, holding his hands up to show he's not an enemy. He apologizes for scaring them, looking genuinely concerned about their state. He tells them flat out that he has no intention of fighting them anymore. He jokes that to them he's probably just some weird, incomprehensible dungeon monster. Suddenly, a new gold-rimmed notification window appears in front of him. It's a dungeon boss exclusive skill he's never seen before. The screen identifies it as Spirit Guard's Blessing, which allows him to add monsters to his dungeon. He's shocked. A second skill already? The system confirms it's a skill that lets him add monsters to his territory. He stares at the notification, his eyes wide with realization of the potential here. A prompt asks if he wants to add the twin dragon Liv.511 as a dungeon monster. He can hardly believe it. He can actually turn these powerful creatures into his own allies. He looks at the Spirit Guard's Blessing window, feeling the weight of the opportunity. He realizes the strategic value bringing these dragons under his wing would be a massive power-up. He imagines them fire-breathing and defending the forest, a huge boost to the dungeon's security. But he knows this place will keep being targeted by challengers looking to make a quick buck. He tells the dragons that the guy who controlled them is gone, and they're free to return to the outside world. He looks them in the eye and asks what they actually want to do. The dragons remember their past life with Albara, a man who treated them like nothing more than tools in a cage. They look at Hitoya, thinking he's a very strange guy for giving them a choice instead of forcing control. They share a look, sensing a kind of respect they've never known from a human face before. To Hitoya's surprise, they don't fly away. They choose to stay and be part of his dungeon. He's genuinely touched and thanks them for their trust. He hits the activate button, and a wave of blue energy surges from the ground. Suddenly, a massive wave of healing energy washes over the entire forest. It's the dungeon's auto-recovery. Since there are no challengers left, every monster starts to heal. Hitoya hears a familiar sound and turns to see the pack of wolf pups rushing back to him. He laughs, relieved to see that everyone is okay after the chaos. One of the pups jumps up, nuzzling him happily as the rest of the pack swarms his legs. Hitoya smiles, finally able to relax now that his family is safe. He thanks the little guys, knowing that because they were here, he found the strength to protect this place. He sits down, surrounded by the pack, feeling a peace he hasn't felt in a long time. He looks at the blood-stained soil, remembering how, before today, he couldn't protect anything. He's just glad that he was able to make a difference for these monsters. He looks at the forest, thinking that for the first time, he feels like he's actually moving forward. One of the pups perches on his head, and he looks like a true guardian of the woods. Suddenly, one of the dragon heads speaks up, surprising him with a deep, resonant voice. Hitoya's jaw drops. He had no idea they could actually talk. The dragon warns him that more dangerous people are definitely coming for this dungeon. He listens intently as the twin dragon describes the kind of threats that will follow. One of the twin dragon's heads explains that in this region, the term challenger refers to only one group. The Dragon Raiders, known as Ryashizaku, are a ruthless crew that captures and sells dungeon monsters for profit. Hitoya is stunned by the realization. These dragons were just loot to them, and the raiders won't give up easily. The dragons warn him that their leader, Chief Fucho, will eventually come for this place. A silhouette of Albera looms, a man whose strength is on a completely different level than anything Hitoya has faced. Hitoya looks at the worried wolf pup, knowing he has to step up if he wants to protect this sanctuary. He gathers the monsters together in the quiet forest, his mind racing for a defensive strategy. He holds up a finger, telling them he has a plan for how to handle the incoming threat. He suggests that all the monsters stay hidden deep in the dungeon while he takes the role of the lookout. He studies a mental map of the dungeon's single gate, planning to keep watch from a tall tree. The twin dragons look at him in silence, sensing the weight of his resolve. A tiny wolf pup looks up at him with wide, curious eyes as he lifts it gently. He pets the pup and tells them not to worry, promising that he'll be fine on his own. Despite his outward confidence, he admits to himself that he's feeling a deep sense of anxiety. He pulls up the rebirth skill window, which allows him to copy the abilities of challengers who failed a dungeon. His eyes narrow with a cold focus as he realizes that every enemy he defeats only makes him stronger. He envisions a future where the dragon raiders are wiped out, finally bringing lasting peace to his woods. He clings to a tree branch high above the ground, determined to use every bit of his current strength. Suddenly, a sharp sound cuts through the air, and everyone freezes in alarm. A bright red warning flashes across his vision. Dungeon challenger detected. The stone gates of the sanctuary groan open as a group of intruders forces their way inside. The dragon raiders march in, complaining that Gul'dan allegedly stole the twin dragon and ran. From his vantage point in the trees, Hitoya looks down and is shocked by just how many raiders there are. He breaks into a cold sweat, realizing he's never had to fight this many opponents at the same time. Below him, the raiders laugh and mockingly bet on who can rack up the highest kill count in their game. Hitoya's eyes flare with a brilliant blue light, his anger boiling over at their total disregard for life. He won't let them turn his friends' lives into toys for their sick games, and he prepares his counterstrike. He activates Stealth Shot, Ghost Strike, blue energy crackling as he prepares to rain down judgment. The Dragon Raiders are feeling pretty confident in their numbers. Imamura Hitoya isn't impressed. He decides to cripple their combat power first, activating Stealth Shot, Ghost Strike. He moves like a shadow, aiming his strikes with surgical precision. He's not going for their heads, he's going for their gear. The group stands there in shock as their weapons literally disintegrate. One guy tells everyone to calm down since it's just an F-rank dungeon, but he's missing the point. Without weapons, they have no skills. Hitoya stops for a second to watch their reactions. He confirms a massive secret. Human skills in this world actually live inside their weapons. If that's the case, the rules of engagement just changed. Another raider tries to force a skill activation through his scythe. Hitoya shatters it before the guy can even finish the swing. Breaking the steel completely neutralizes the human behind it. Total chaos breaks out as the raiders realize they can't even see the source of the attacks. One bandit activates Vision plus 10, thinking he's finally pinned down the boss. Hitoya notes that skills aren't just for mindless attacking. A raider lashes out with a wind blade, hoping to catch him off guard. Hitoya doesn't panic, he just focuses on weaving through the incoming skill effects. He zips through the forest, a glowing blue blur between the trees. He continues his demolition job, closing the distance in an instant. He shreds every blade and mace in his path. The raiders are frozen. This wasn't supposed to be part of the raid. They finally realize they aren't dealing with some low-level trash mob. One guy decides he's done and heads for the exit. The retreat becomes a stampede as everyone scrambles to get out of the dungeon. They leave their pride and their broken gear behind. A flood of system notifications confirms that the challengers have officially withdrawn. Hitoya watches them flee, surprised they gave up so quickly. But then, the system starts acting up again. He just permanently acquired Windblade, Twist Step, and Vision Plus 10. He's stunned. He actually just stole their powers. It all clicks for him now. As the dungeon boss, any challenger who runs away without winning has to pay a toll. All their skills become his. One lone archer stays behind, screaming at his friends for being cowards. He's still convinced this F-ranked dungeon is just a payday. Hitoya looms in the darkness, watching the guy's desperation. The archer decides to burn the forest down to harvest the materials, activating a skill to torch the place. He launches a fireball shot right at the local spirits. Hitoya isn't about to let his forest burn. He immediately activates his newly stolen Windblade. The green energy slice cuts straight through the flames. It hits the archer with lethal force, ending his little arson attempt. The guy hits the dirt screaming, while his last remaining buddy watches in pure terror. The Dragon Raiders are in complete disbelief that their skills were just turned against them. Imamura Hitoya looms over the terrified group, his body surging with blue energy. He looks them dead in the eye, his expression stone cold. He makes it official, this place isn't their personal playground anymore. The remaining invaders scramble for their lives, leaving their pride behind. Hitoya watches them flee, the glow of his power beginning to settle. The massive dungeon doors slam shut, sealing the intruders out for good. For the first time since his rebirth, he finally has a moment of peace. Hitoya lets out a breath, feeling a strange sense of relief. The local spirit wolves flock to him, wagging their tails in celebration. Meanwhile, in the Dragon Raiders' hideout in the East Capital, news of the failure has already arrived. Albara, the gang's ruthless boss, listens to the report with cold indifference. To a man like him, failures are nothing more than waste. Pedro Detless, a noble with a taste for the macabre, seems to enjoy the tension. One of the survivors begs for mercy, explaining that the F-ranked dungeon has become impossible to clear. Albara just stares him down, clearly not buying the impossible excuse. The bandit frantically tries to describe the monster that handled their best skills like toys. He relives the nightmare of seeing his own team's abilities used against them with zero effort. Albara is done listening to the whining of a loser. He calls the survivor worthless trash to his face. He gestures toward the massive dark silhouette of his grand dragon. He tells the beast it's feeding time and tosses the failed raider right into its maw. Pedro Detless sips his wine, watching the execution like it's a casual dinner show. He finds the whole situation strangely amusing. He looks out over the forest, doubting that a real boss could even exist in such a low-tier dungeon. He suspects there's something else going on under the surface. Albara doesn't care about mysteries. He cares about the bottom line. To him, a unique monster isn't a threat. It's just rare materials waiting to be cashed in. The idea of an unknown F-ranked boss is starting to sound like a goldmine. A cruel grin spreads across his face as he considers the profit. He agrees to take care of it himself, but the noble's cut of the profits is going to take a hit. Cut back to the forest mausoleum, standing quiet and imposing in the trees. Hitoya is taking it easy on a tree branch, watching the spirits play below. A wolf pup is especially excited, yapping and spinning in circles. Hitoya notices the little guy's persistence and jumps down to see what's up. The pup seems to have found something and wants to lead the way. Hitoya wonders if there's something else hidden deep in his woods. He follows the small guy through the thick foliage. They reach a hidden cave entrance, tucked away from the main path. Inside, the walls are covered in the same glowing mushrooms he found before. The wolf pup keeps pushing forward, clearly heading for a specific spot. Hitoya spots something unusual in the darkness and stops in his tracks. Imamura Hitoya stands before a massive golden gate, its radiant glow illuminating the entire cave. The light is nearly blinding as he tries to process what he's looking at. Stunned, he wonders how such a massive door could have been hidden here. The wolf pup yaps in excitement, confirming that this is a brand new discovery. With his heart pounding, Hitoya cautiously reaches out toward the glowing barrier. As he touches the gate, a surge of energy pulses through the cavern. The system immediately recognizes him and verifies his status as the dungeon boss. A new interface appears, announcing that the dungeon rank-up system is now online. The intense shaking finally stops as the blinding light begins to fade. Hitoya scoops up the startled wolf pup, trying to make sense of the sudden activation. The gate remains closed, now flickering with red warning signals from the system. A red hologram bluntly states that the requirements for a rank-up have not been met. Hitoya realizes that his growth and the dungeon's progression are now linked. Multiple locks appear over the portal, sealing off what is labeled as an unexplored sector. The primary objective is clear. He must increase the dungeon's rank to proceed. He ponders the massive task ahead of him, staring at the imposing golden threshold. Suddenly, two avian spirits with brilliant blue crests fly into the cavern. Hitoya recognizes the twin dragons, another group of loyal dungeon residents. He asks them if they've ever heard of a dungeon being able to increase its rank. The idea seems impossible to him, far beyond anything a typical dungeon can do. The twin dragons confirm his suspicion, admitting they've never encountered such a thing. The group is left in a state of uncertainty, unsure of what a higher rank would even mean for them. They look back at the golden door, realizing their home is far more unique than they thought. The label Unexplored Dungeon Sectors hangs in the air like a promise of hidden secrets. It's a place that no one has ever reached before in the history of the mausoleum. Hitoya wonders what kind of power or treasure could be waiting on the other side. He pets the wolf pup, thanking the little creature for finding such a monumental discovery. The system confirms they are currently in the deepest known area of the F-rank dungeon. A notification pops up. The first seal has been released, identifying the location as the Sacred Ark. Hitoya settles onto a thick tree branch, joined by the silent avian spirits. He tries to strike up a conversation, asking the twin dragons for their real names. The birds remain silent, their eyes reflecting a lingering wariness toward their new master. Sensing the tension, Hitoya backs off, realizing that building trust will take more than just words. Suddenly, his eyes widen as a sharp vibration echoes through the entire forest. The twin dragons alert him to the unmistakable sound of the main dungeon gate being breached. A grim realization hits him. Another challenger has entered his domain. The dungeon's defense system flashes a red alert, confirming the presence of an intruder. Albara, the ruthless leader of the Dragon Raiders, rides in on his massive Grand Dragon. The level 66 Great Swordsman is here to tear the dungeon apart and sell its secrets. The resident monsters are paralyzed with fear, sensing the overwhelming power of the boss. Hitoya can feel the pressure. This man is leagues above any opponent he's faced before. Witnessing his subjects being slaughtered, Hitoya knows he must act now to end this nightmare. Imamura Hitoya's eyes blaze with a fierce determination as he channels every ounce of energy into his body. He vows to end the slaughter, ready to throw every skill he's acquired at the invaders and face Albara head-on in a desperate gamble for the dungeon's survival. Imamura Hitoya decides to throw everything he's got into this one move. He activates his Ghost Strike skill, launching a massive beam of energy. But Albara barely flinches, blocking the entire blast with his heavy broadsword. Hitoya can't believe it. His strongest attack didn't even leave a scratch. The leader mocks him, asking why an F-ranked boss is trying to sneak around. Hitoya realizes he's completely exposed, with the twin dragon hiding right behind him. Albara looks down from his mount, confirming his target is just some low-level trash. He's not alone either. The entire raiding party is backing him up. Then his eyes land on the two small creatures near Hitoya. He notices their collars are missing, and the twin dragons start to panic. To him, any tool that stops obeying is just garbage waiting to be thrown out. His expression turns cold as he prepares to deal with the deserters. The creatures tremble, knowing exactly what's coming. Hitoya steps in front of them, shouting that they aren't anyone's tools. Albara finds the whole thing hilarious, a piece of material trying to protect tools. Hitoya doesn't care if he's being mocked, he's not backing down. The leader loses interest and gives his boys the signal to finish them off. The Dragon Raiders charge forward, ready to tear everything apart. But the small dragons aren't going down without a fight. They activate their own skills, Hailflame and Warpflame, together. A massive blast of ice and fire erupts, catching the raiders off guard. Even Hitoya is surprised by the raw power coming from his new companions. The raiders are forced to stop their advance, completely pinned down by the elemental storm. Seizing the opening, Hitoya charges up a wind blade for a counterattack. He layers his skills, combining the blade with Twist Step to boost his speed. Then he adds Curve Blade into the mix, letting him control the trajectory of the wind. The raiders can't even dodge as the attacks bend around their shields and slice through them. Seeing his men fail, Albara decides to re-establish control by using his ring. He targets the fleeing twin dragon with a pulse of red energy. In an instant, a glowing, spiked collar materializes around the creature's neck. The magic force kicks in immediately, strangling the life out of them. Albara brags that humans are the only ones who get to give orders here. He promises that next time, he'll force them to kill each other for sport. The creature falls to the dirt, coughing and broken under the collar's weight. It looks up to see a nightmare looming over it. The Grand Dragon opens its jaws wide, ready to swallow the traitor whole. Just before the teeth snap shut, Hitoya dives in and pulls the creature to safety. The dragon can't believe it's still alive as Hitoya holds it tight. He sprints away at top speed, dodging a barrage of energy bolts from the raiders. Furious, Albara screams at his men to stop them from escaping the forest. Hitoya can feel the creature shivering uncontrollably in his arms. He realizes how deep the trauma goes and quietly apologizes for not being faster. Imamura Hitoya looks at the two small creatures and tells them they need to go. He orders them to run as deep into the forest as they can. The twin dragon are stunned, asking if he's really planning to take on the whole gang alone. Down below, the raiders spot him in the branches and order everyone to fire. Hitoya assures them he'll be fine and to just get moving. He gives them a reassuring smile, promising to wait until they're truly free from their past. The creatures look back one last time, clearly worried for their savior. Without another word, Hitoya dives headfirst from the tree into the middle of the enemy. The dragon raiders roar, charging forward to claim the head of the dungeon boss. But Hitoya's expression hardens as he vows to end this fight right now so nobody else gets hurt. He activates Vision +10 and Detect, scanning the area to find exactly 10 raiders still standing. He becomes a blur, cutting through the group with high-speed wind blades and ghost strikes. He doesn't slow down for a second, catching another pair of raiders with a sharp wind blast. As the bodies pile up, the survivors can only watch in terror as they realize how strong he is. Hitoya stares them down, focused on finishing the job. He stands tall amidst the wreckage of the raiding party, leaving only the leader to deal with. From the back of his dragon, Albara scoffs at his own men's failure, calling them useless. He decides to speed things up and activates a horrific skill called Devour Boost. The Grand Dragon's jaws snap shut on something nearby. Hitoya watches in confusion, realizing the dragon just used a skill he's never seen. His heart sinks as he sees the dragon literally swallowing one of its own master's men. Hitoya's eyes go wide with pure horror. The raiders scream in agony as their own mount turns on them, devouring them alive. Hitoya covers his mouth, unable to believe a leader would actually feed his own men to a monster. As the dragon eats, its red eyes glow brighter with every life it consumes. The beast begins to transform, its scales hardening and its body becoming far more massive. Albara watches with a grin as the Grand Dragon reaches a colossal size, powered by the sacrifice. The monster opens its maw, and a terrifying sphere of energy begins to form between its teeth. Hitoya breaks into a sweat, realizing the energy blast could level the entire forest and the dungeon with it. He knows he has to stop that attack before it fires and sprints toward the giant beast. He stares at the massive creature, wondering how he can even dent something that big. Then he remembers the twin dragon's collars and realizes the glowing ring on this dragon must be its weak point. He leaps into the air with a wind blade ready, aiming straight for the glowing collar. The dragon's energy ball reaches its limit, lighting up the sky with a purple glow. But just as Hitoya's blade is about to hit, Albara drops down and intercepts the strike. Hitoya is shocked that the leader moved fast enough to block him mid-air. He grits his teeth and swings his heavy sword, swearing he won't let Hitoya touch that collar. The clash of power creates a massive explosion, leaving Hitoya's fate hanging in the balance. The Grand Dragon charges up a massive energy blast. Imamura Hitoya realizes that if he doesn't stop it, the whole dungeon is finished. That red collar is clearly the core of the raid leader's control. Albara stands his ground, daring the monster to even try touching it. Hitoya lunges forward, activating his curve blade skill. Albara isn't about to let him get close and starts his own skill. He triggers Earth Split Quake, shattering the terrain with a massive blow. The ground collapses into a giant crater to halt the charge. Hitoya stares up as the massive beast looms over him. A ball of energy starts glowing white-hot in the dragon's jaws. He doesn't have a second to waste. He thinks about combining Ghost Strike with another skill to bypass the defense. Suddenly, a blast of blue energy hits the dragon right in the mouth. Albara swings his flaming sword to ward off whatever just interfered. The two twin dragons dive into the fray from above. They fire off multiple energy shots to create a distraction. The twins keep the pressure on both the leader and his mount. Albara is losing his cool, annoyed that these nobodies are actually standing up to him. One of the small dragons zips past his head. He swings wildly, screaming at them not to oppose him. Hitoya sees his opening and makes his move. He leaps high and slams a focus strike directly into the red collar. The impact sends Albara flying back as the mental link breaks. The Grand Dragon roars in pain and confusion as the collar shatters. The raid leader tumbles through the air, his weapon trailing behind. A fragment of the broken ring of subjugation falls from the dragon's neck. Albara can't wrap his head around how a monster managed to break it. That ring is an absolute command device that's supposed to be impossible for monsters to destroy. But Hitoya went straight for it and actually shattered the thing. The initial shock turns into a murderous rage. Albara vows to leave nothing but dust where the dungeon once stood. He unleashes a massive blast of dark energy to wipe everything out. The force is so great, his own sword begins to crack. Hitoya dives straight through the chaos, glowing with blue energy. He remembers the weak monsters he promised to protect. He focuses every bit of power he has left into one final strike. The blow lands perfectly, slamming Albara into the ground with a massive impact. Far away, a tiny wolf pup senses the shift as the battle settles. Hitoya catches the exhausted twin dragons as the smoke clears. Albara is forced to crawl away, still spitting insults at the creatures he called materials. He tries to puff out his chest one last time, screaming at them not to look down on him. But then he stops as a massive shadow looms over him. The Grand Dragon is finally free. The Grand Dragon looks down at its former master, calling him out for spending a lifetime exploiting others. It admits it was too weak to fight back against the power of those callers and remained a slave for far too long. Now that the chains are gone, the beast roars, ready to take responsibility for its own path. Albara can only watch in total shock, cursing as his control crumbles into nothing. He glares back with one bloodshot eye, his rage boiling over as he loses everything. But the system confirms it. The number of challengers has officially dropped to 0. Imamura Hitoya watches the massive dragon's silhouette, realizing the fight against the raiders is finally over. A system prompt appears, giving him the option to add the level 71 Grand Dragon as a permanent resident of his dungeon. He looks at the notification for a second, thinking about what comes next. He turns to the creatures and tells them he has the power to make them official members of the dungeon, but asks what they actually want to do. The Grand Dragon looks him in the eye and makes its decision. It's leaving this place. Hitoya doesn't hesitate for a second and hits the confirm button, letting the beast go. The twin dragons are surprised, pointing out that this was a rare chance to recruit a seriously high-level monster. But Hitoya isn't interested in that. He knows how much the dragon suffered under that collar and refuses to become just another raider. He smiles, knowing the dragon probably has its own business to take care of out in the world. The massive beast looks back one last time, declaring its mission to free its kin. It remembers the others still trapped in cages, enslaved by the dragon raiders just like it was. It reflects on its time as a simple tool for humans, chained to their whims. It hated being forced to devour lives and wants to live as a proud dragon from now on. It flies off into the light, giving its heartfelt thanks to Hitoya and the twins as it disappears. The trio stands at the gate, watching the silhouette of the free dragon vanish into the distance. The little guys realize he's really gone, and Hitoya just nods. He turns back to the twin dragons and asks if they want to head back outside as well. The dungeon starts to pulse with light as a full recovery sequence begins, making everything look a little weird. One of them admits that while this place is strange, they actually don't hate it. They finally introduce themselves properly, revealing their names are Ata and Yata. Hitoya gives them a genuine smile, thanking them for trusting him enough to share their names. Suddenly, a massive gold notification fills the air as the dungeon rank-up system begins to initialize. The system pulls up the details for the F-rank Shrine Mausoleum. It confirms that all the requirements for an upgrade have been officially met. Hitoya is bathed in a brilliant green light as the dungeon evolves into its new form, the Forest Mausoleum. A final prompt appears, confirming that the last threat from the old world is gone. Archimonde is dead. A blinding light erupts as a system window appears above Imamura Hitoya. The dungeon officially ranks up to E rank, ticking on the name Forest Mausoleum. Hitoya and his companions can't believe their eyes. The entire terrain starts shifting, physically expanding the dungeon's boundaries. Rubble materializes out of thin air as the walls restructure themselves. Hitoya stares at his hands, wondering exactly what this evolution entails. A sudden bark catches his attention. Wolf Pup comes racing back, looking completely unscathed. The little white monster yaps urgently at its master. Hitoya still can't speak wolf, but he knows the creature is trying to say something big. The small fox takes off again, leading the group deeper into the brush. The protagonist decides to follow, sensing that this is important. They push through the newly expanded forest. They come across a massive tree hollow glowing with strange light. The ground is covered in strange, glowing green mushrooms. System windows pop up everywhere. These are level 1 mushroom monsters. Hitoya is taken aback by the sudden appearance of more subordinates. Then he spots something tucked away through the thicket. A golden door is sealed shut within the ancient roots. The system confirms it. An unexplored sector called the Shadow Gate is now open. His eyes light up at the prospect of a brand new area. He gives the pup a smile, realizing this was the surprise it was barking about. The group approaches the gate as the mushrooms bob along behind them. He pauses at the entrance, wondering what lies ahead. He knows if these are dungeon monsters, they're on his side. The young man steps forward, hoping to find more answers. A long stone staircase leads them deep underground. At the bottom, it looks like a total dead end. A small mound of dirt sits right in the middle of the floor. Suddenly, the mushrooms start vibrating with energy. They dive into the soil and start digging with surprising speed. Hitoya and the others watch, stunned by the little guy's work ethic. A golden chest called the Sixth Sacred Ark emerges from the ground. He can't hide his shock as the treasure pulses with light. The system announces it as a special reward for the dungeon's rank up. Actual treasure materializing in the dungeon. This changes everything. The birds are already dreaming of what kind of loot is inside. They wonder if more treasure will appear every time they get stronger. Hitoya's expression goes dark as he thinks about the implications. If there's loot this good, high-level hunters won't be far behind. The monsters are eager to see what's inside, but he hesitates. He tells them to keep their distance while he checks for traps. Imamura Hitoya stares at the golden chest, wondering what treasure lies inside the sacred ark. He reaches out and slowly lifts the heavy, ornate lid. A golden, star-shaped ring floats within a pillar of light. It's the right hand of Prometheus. Hitoya is mesmerized by the accessory, noting its strange, high-level design. A system screen flickers to life, identifying it as an equipment item with a powerful, granted effect. The realization hits him. This isn't just some shiny trinket, it's a legendary tool of war. He looks at the artifact with a mix of awe and genuine concern. The monsters crowd around, their eyes wide as they ask if it grants some flashy combat power. He knows the ring could make him unstoppable in a fight, but he senses a catch. He realizes that wielding such an item would only draw more dangerous hunters into his dungeon. He pulls his hand back, telling his curious subordinates that he can't show them the item's true power just yet. To him, the dungeon is still far too full of unanswered questions. He thinks back on his journey, the rank up, his newfound strength, and how he broke the collars no monster should be able to resist. Staring at his own reflection, he can't help but ask himself who he's really becoming. He decides that if he can help it, he won't rely on the treasure's power to win his battles. A new idea sparks in his mind, and he turns toward the glowing mushroom monsters. He proposes a new plan, using the mushroom's natural abilities to physically alter the dungeon. He wants everyone to work together to build a secret hideout. Everyone gets to work. Wolfpup and the mushroom monsters dive into the dirt to start digging. High above, the birds use their wings and claws to clear away the rubble left over from the rank up. They finish the construction by camouflaging the entrance with thick layers of moss and vines. Hitoya beams with pride, thrilled to see his vision finally coming to life. Standing before the massive ancient tree, he officially declares the hideout complete. The new dungeon map shows the updated layout, with the hideout tucked safely away from the main gate. He gives a heartfelt thanks to his monster family, though the birds try to play it cool. The monsters are eager to explore their new home, and he leads the way inside. The interior is carved out beneath the massive roots, offering a sanctuary that no weapon or flame from the outside can reach. He even points out a hidden emergency tunnel that leads deep into the surrounding forest. Despite the chill, the monsters find the new space incredibly cozy. Hitoya reassures them that they're safe now, and encourages everyone to get some well-deserved rest. Before long, the entire room is filled with the soft sounds of his subordinates sleeping peacefully. He sits in the quiet, hoping that ranking up will continue to help him build a place where everyone belongs. A flash of his previous life as a human flickers by, a world of suits, cold competition, and endless climbing. He realizes that the stronger he becomes here, the more creatures he can actually protect. Still, he can't stay idle. He decides to head back out to patrol the perimeter. He checks the mouth of the escape tunnel and is relieved to see everything remains undisturbed. He notices Atta watching him from a nearby root. The bird monster seems unusually restless as it stares at the water. Sensing something is off, Hitoya asks his friend what's bothering it. Atta looks him in the eyes and asks why a boss like him works so hard to protect monsters like them. "What are you really, boss?" the bird asks, leaving Hitoya completely stunned. And his companion press for answers, wanting to know if Imamura Hitoya has a family of his own. Hitoya's eyes widen as the question catches him completely off guard. Surrounded by his loyal monster subordinates, he decides to open up about his past. He explains that despite his current monstrous appearance, his parents were just ordinary humans. A distant memory from his previous life begins to surface. His earliest memory is a cold, dark one, huddled in the shadows, consumed by hunger. He remembers being a lonely child, lost and without a place to call home. But then, a kind couple took him in, promising him a safe haven. To him, they became mom and dad, even though they shared no blood. They welcomed him with open arms, providing the love he had always craved. For a time, he lived a happy, normal life alongside the people who chose to be his family. Then disaster struck. An earthquake tore his world apart, and his home was swallowed by rubble. He tells the monsters that while they didn't look alike, the bond he shared with his parents was undeniable. The memory of their kindness is what drives his actions even now. Hitoya realizes he wants to live just like them by protecting those who have become his new family. The wolf pup and the bird monsters nuzzle against him, deeply moved by his story. Atta watches his boss with a newfound sense of respect. For the first time, the bird monster feels he truly understands why Hitoya is in this dungeon. Meanwhile, far from the forest, the sun sets over the sprawling towers of the capital city. Deep within the inner district lies the Capital Underground Research Lab's East Wing. Elaine Tulin reclines on a sofa, casually reviewing a formal petition from the Lord of the East Capital. The request is to investigate and completely destroy the F-rank Forest Mausoleum dungeon. A cold smile plays across Elaine's face as he considers the bizarre little dungeon. He decides that such an anomaly deserves a very thorough study before its destruction. Back at the dungeon entrance, the peaceful silence of the forest is suddenly broken. A massive tremor rocks the earth, startling Hitoya and his small army of monsters. The stone gate groans and shakes as a new group of intruders forces their way inside. Weeks have passed since the Dragon Raiders' defeat, and now a fresh faction of challengers has arrived. Itoya stands his ground, a determined spark igniting in his blue eyes. No matter who comes, he vows to protect this home and everyone within it. He leaps into action, a blur of energy descending upon the unsuspecting invaders. The intruders don't hesitate, immediately activating a barrage of powerful combat skills. Hitoya notes that every one of the 6 challengers is a high-level threat with unique abilities. He refuses to panic, channeling his power to activate his own devastating skill, Earth Split Quake. Imamura Hitoya locks in, ready to use a stolen power to defend his home. He flashes back to the Dragon Raiders' boss, Albara, the original owner of this devastating skill. He triggers Earth Split Quake, charging up a massive blue shockwave designed to level everything in its path. One of the Dragon Raiders recognizes the move instantly and panics. It's the signature skill of their own boss, and seeing a skeleton use it is a nightmare. The ground starts glowing beneath them. He screams for everyone to dodge, but there's nowhere to go. The earth erupts in a blinding blast of blue energy. The raiders get tossed like rag dolls as the ground underneath them completely disintegrates. As the dust settles, Hitoya gives them a cold ultimatum: go back to their world or face the consequences next time. The survivors cling to a jagged pillar of rock, looking down at the monster who just rewrote the rules of the fight. They aren't sticking around to find out what next time looks like. The leader calls for a full retreat and cracks open a dungeon gate. They bolt for the exit, grumbling about failing the mission and missing out on their payday. As they scramble out, a strange little metal fish zips along right behind them. It's a mechanical drone, hovering silently and watching everything with its spinning lenses. Hitoya spots the intruder immediately. He triggers Vision +10 to get a better look at the floating scrap metal. He realizes it's not alive, it's a camera drone. That means someone outside has been watching his every move. The heavy dungeon gate slams shut, sealing the invaders out. Hitoya stands alone, wondering what those guys were really after if it wasn't just clearing the floor. The system notifications start flooding in. Since the enemies fled in terror, he's absorbed 6 of their skills, from multi-shot to sky swimming. He's not sure what's coming next, but he's definitely stacking up enough options to handle it. He looks at his hand, feeling the new powers thrumming through his core. Ata and Yata swoop down to celebrate, impressed by how fast the boss wrapped things up. Hitoya greets his bird companions with a smile, glad to have the quiet back. Suddenly, he realizes he has a brand new way to get around. He decides to test out one of those fresh skills right now. He activates Sky Swim, and his body starts glowing with blue energy as he lifts off the ground. He's actually flying. The birds are hyped to have their boss join them in the air. The excitement doesn't last long. He loses control and faceplants straight into the tree line. Ata and Yata dive down to make sure he hasn't turned back into a pile of regular bones. He ends up dangling from a branch like a piece of laundry, admitting that mastering flight on the first try is harder than it looks. He gets the hang of it eventually, gliding through the canopy like he's swimming through water. While they're cruising, he asks the duo when they actually learned how to use their skills. Ata casually mentions they've had them since the moment they cracked out of their shells. Hitoya is floored. The idea of being born with magic is completely alien to him. Ata explains that while some monsters like the wolves are born without them, magic is generally a monster-only trait. He realizes that in this world, humans are the ones who start from zero. Humans can't cast a thing without magic tools, which explains why breaking their gear effectively disarms them. Then comes the dark part. Those tools are made by processing monsters that have innate skills. The reality of what that means hits Hitoya like a physical blow. Every weapon he shattered during the fight wasn't just a tool, it was the remains of a monster like him. He's been breaking his own kind. Ata notices his expression and tells him he's being a total softie about it. She points out that the rings of subjugation aren't just for control. They're used to haul monsters back to the human world like livestock for a slaughterhouse. They're turned into gear, forced to serve the humans who killed them even after death. That's the reality of their world. Ata tries to put a positive spin on things, suggesting that by breaking those magic tools, Hitoya is actually setting the spirits of those monsters free. Hitoya looks away, his heart heavy. He wants to believe that's true, but the horror of the world's exploitation still sticks with him. Despite the grim reality, his resolve only hardens. He vows to use everything he's got to protect the innocent monsters who call this dungeon home. Miles away in the opulent East Capital, the mood is much lighter as someone laughs at the news of the Dragon Raiders' failure. A smug young man with long ash-brown hair leans back, clearly entertained by the reports. To him, the Raiders were just mediocre players in a much larger game. Pedro Detless, the Lord of East Capital, isn't impressed either. He scoffs at the incompetence of the group he sent, calling them worthless. Still, Pedro can't help but smile. He considers himself a lucky man to have such an interesting problem to solve. The ash-haired man reaches out his hand, and one of those mechanical fish drones swims right into his palm. This is Professor Elaine Tulin, and he's the one who's been puppeteering the surveillance from the shadows. He's pleased with the results. The footage his drones captured was perfect, giving him a front row seat to Hitoya's performance. Pedro was fascinated by the moving pictures and the floating text. He's never seen technology like this before, and it's clear Tulin is a league above his peers. Tulin confirms that the preliminary recon is officially over. He's seen enough of the bizarre little dungeon to know what he's dealing with. He stands up, his eyes gleaming with a cold, analytical hunger. The next move is already clear in his mind. Pedro asks what that next step is, looking up at the researcher with a mix of curiosity and anticipation. Tulin's answer is simple: an on-site investigation. He's going to get his hands dirty this time. He plans to study every inch of the dungeon, peel back its secrets, and then dismantle it until there's nothing left but rubble. He's coming for Hitoya's home. Hitoya's taking a breather in the trees with Wolf and the twin dragons. It's a rare moment of peace, and he's glad the little pup finally conquered his fear of flying. That peace gets shattered by a red alert: someone's entered the dungeon. Hitoya sends the crew to hide while he heads out to meet the intruder. He rushes toward the entrance, wondering what kind of idiots decided to challenge him this time. The system is screaming that a challenger is detected, but as he reaches the main gate, there's absolutely no one there. Hitoya scans the empty clearing, his guard up. This doesn't feel like a normal raid. Then, a voice comes from directly behind him, asking if he's the dungeon boss. He spins around, heart hammering. He didn't sense a soul approaching. It's a guy in a white lab coat, just casually materializing in midair with a smug grin. Hitoya is stunned. The intruder basically appeared out of thin air. He tries to scan for a status window, but nothing comes up. No level, no skills. The guy is a complete blank. They face off in the clearing. This isn't like any challenger Hitoya has dealt with before. He demands to know who this guy is and what he thinks he's doing here. The man introduces himself as Elaine Tulin and says he's simply here to clear the dungeon. Hitoya figures it's the usual greed, another hunter coming for the treasure. But Elaine's got something much worse in mind: a total clear. Hitoya's never heard the term, but it doesn't sound good. Elaine looks down at him like he's explaining basic math. He says that once a dungeon's treasure is taken, the whole place just disappears from the world. The rooms, the walls, the history, all of it gets wiped out, and the monsters go with it. If Elaine succeeds, every creature in the forest mausoleum will be deleted from existence. He says it with a shrug, like it's just the natural order of things. Hitoya's done listening. He's not letting anyone erase his home or his family. Elaine doesn't flinch. He summons a swarm of metallic, fish-shaped blades that circle him like a school of sharks. Hitoya braces himself as the silver blades hem him in. The guy's got way too many weapons, so Hitoya decides to start cutting them down. He launches a curve blade strike, slicing through the first wave of fish. Elaine just smiles. He knew exactly how the boss would react. Before the pieces even hit the ground, the fish blades are already reforming. Hitoya stares in disbelief. His slashes aren't doing a damn thing. Elaine taunts him, noting that the dungeon boss seems pretty useless against his gear. Hitoya is backing up, trying to figure out how to fight something that can't be cut. That's when the twin dragons dive into the fray. They combine their powers to unleash a massive hail flame burst, shielding Hitoya. Ada screams at the researcher to stay away from the boss. Elaine recognizes them. They're the specimens from the Dragon Raiders, and he seems surprised they're still kicking. One of the dragons lets loose an energy beam right at his head. Elaine just dodges, looking more curious than threatened by the bird's firepower. The dragons growl, staying between their master and the intruder. Elaine watches them circle, his eyes narrowing behind his glasses. He realizes something is missing. There's no status window on them either. He asks the dragons how they're even flying around without orders. He wants to know how the hell they managed to get their rings of subjugation off. Elaine mockingly asks if Hitoya is finished with his little silent treatment. Hitoya's answer is a stealth shot, Ghost Strike, sending a massive beam of energy right at him. Elaine just laughs it off, saying Hitoya really does some terrifying things. Hitoya doesn't care about the praise. He just wants this guy away from his friends. The professor decides he's had enough fun for now and calls for a cooldown time. He starts to fade away, leaving Hitoya alone in the clearing. Hitoya is stunned. He can't believe the guy just pulled back after making such a scene. A notification pops up, the challenger count is back to 0. Hitoya immediately tries to activate his skill-stealing ability. But a giant error message blocks him. There are no skills available to acquire. He's floored. He's supposed to gain power from everyone who fails his dungeon. Usually, every victory means new skills and a higher rank for his home. But this guy was a total ghost. No status, no skills, just unknown. Hitoya realizes he just met an opponent unlike anything he's ever seen. He clenches his fist, knowing he'll have to face this new reality head-on. Over in the East Capital, Elaine tells Lord Pedro Deathless he's reconsidered the total clear. Pedro is surprised, wondering if the dungeon was too much for the elite professor. Elaine explains that he's found something much more interesting for his research. He wants those twin dragons alive, because once the dungeon goes, they'll be gone forever. Pedro's greed takes over immediately. He wants the dungeon boss captured too. He knows a rare monster like that would fetch a massive price as material. He's ready to provide all the rings and backup Elaine needs to secure the prize. Elaine just tells him to stay out of the way and not slow him down. Pedro agrees, knowing better than to argue with a man of his reputation. After all, Elaine is the legendary hunter who took down the grand dragon that slaughtered the dragon raiders. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more juicy manhwas from Sunraku Manhwa.